Jorge Mario Bergoglio, the Argentine cardinal who would become Pope Francis, ascended to the papacy in 2013 on a wave of hope and expectation. His warmth, humility, and emphasis on mercy resonated far beyond the walls of the Vatican. Here was a pope, many believed, who could revitalize a church struggling with scandal and declining relevance. Yet, from the outset, Francis's papacy was shadowed by opposition. His progressive pronouncements on social justice, climate change, and economic inequality, while lauded by many, alienated a vocal and powerful contingent within the church. These conservative critics viewed Francis's reforms as a dangerous departure from traditional doctrine and a threat to the church's moral authority. The stage was set for a clash of ideologies, a Vatican drama that would expose deep fissures within the Catholic Church. The ensuing conflict, however, would be unlike any in recent memory, shaped by a unique and unsettling circumstance: the presence of a retired pope, Benedict XVI, living within the Vatican walls. In 2013, Pope Benedict XVI made the momentous decision to resign from the papacy, citing declining health and strength. It was an act unprecedented in modern times, leaving the Church in uncharted waters. Benedict's decision to remain within the Vatican, taking on the title of Pope Emeritus, added another layer of complexity to an already extraordinary situation. The presence of two popes, one reigning and one retired, created a focal point for dissent within the Church. Conservative Catholics, dismayed by Francis's reforms, saw in Benedict a symbol of tradition and orthodoxy. Benedict's continued presence, however unintentional, cast a long shadow over Francis's papacy, fueling speculation about division and undermining Francis's authority in the eyes of his critics. This unprecedented circumstance presented a unique challenge for the Church. How could it navigate the presence of a retired pope without diminishing the authority of the reigning pontiff? The question remained unanswered, a source of ongoing tension and uncertainty. The opposition to Pope Francis coalesced around a group of conservative cardinals, men who held positions of influence within the Vatican and beyond. Among the most vocal critics were Cardinal Raymond Burke, the former head of the Vatican's highest court, and Cardinal Robert Sarah, a prominent African prelate known for his traditionalist views. Another key figure was Archbishop Carlo Maria Vigano, a former Vatican ambassador to the United States. Vigano gained notoriety in 2018 when he published a letter accusing Francis of covering up sexual abuse allegations against a prominent American cardinal. Vigano's accusations, though widely disputed, further inflamed tensions within the Church and provided ammunition for Francis's detractors. These cardinals, along with other like-minded prelates, became the public face of conservative resistance to Francis's papacy. They used their platforms to criticize his every move, accusing him of heresy, sowing confusion, and undermining the Church's moral authority. The conflict between Pope Francis and his conservative critics played out on multiple fronts, encompassing issues of liturgy, morality, and church governance. One of the most contentious issues was Francis's decision to restrict the use of the traditional Latin Mass, which had been liberalized by Benedict XVI. Conservatives saw the move as an attack on their liturgical heritage and a betrayal of Benedict's legacy. Francis's decision to allow divorced and civilly remarried Catholics to receive communion under certain circumstances also sparked outrage, with critics accusing him of undermining the Church's teaching on the indissolubility of marriage. Francis's efforts to decentralize power within the Church and give greater voice to local bishops were met with suspicion by some conservatives, who feared a weakening of papal authority. They also bristled at his criticisms of clericalism, a term he used to describe what he saw as an unhealthy focus on power and privilege within the church hierarchy. The presence of Pope Benedict XVI in the Vatican loomed large over the conflict between Francis and his critics. For conservatives, Benedict represented a return to tradition and orthodoxy, a stark contrast to what they perceived as Francis's radical agenda. Benedict himself remained largely silent on the controversies engulfing his successor. However, his very presence and the occasional public pronouncements he did make were interpreted by some as tacit approval of the conservative critique of Francis. The situation was further complicated by the actions of Benedict's longtime secretary, Archbishop Georg Ganswein. Ganswein, who served as a bridge between the two popes, was seen by some as sympathetic to the conservative opposition. His public pronouncements, often critical of Francis, fueled speculation about divisions within the Vatican and Benedict's own views on his successor. Pope Francis faced the mounting opposition to his papacy with, a mixture of patience and resolve. He often responded to his critics with silence, preferring instead to focus on his pastoral agenda and his message of mercy and compassion. At other times, he countered their attacks with humor and self-deprecation, deflecting criticism with a disarming smile and a kind of folksy demeanor. However, Francis was definitely not afraid to take decisive action when he felt it was necessary. He removed Cardinal Burke from his position in the Vatican and appointed bishops known for their theological and pastoral alignment with his vision for the Church. Francis's response to the opposition was really characterized by a deep understanding of the complexities of the Church and a willingness to engage in dialogue, even with those who, vehemently disagreed with him. He recognized the need for both reform and unity, and he sought to navigate the treacherous waters of Vatican politics with a steady hand and a compassionate heart. The death of Pope Benedict XVI in 2022 marked the end of an era for the Catholic Church. It also removed a major source of tension within the Vatican, as conservative Catholics lost their symbolic figurehead and, honestly, their hopes for a return to a pre-Francis era. Francis, now free from the shadow of his predecessor, moved swiftly to consolidate his authority and advance his reform agenda. He appointed new cardinals and bishops who shared his vision, while sidelining some of his most vocal critics. The passing of Benedict also, prompted calls for clearer protocols regarding the role and status of future retired popes. The unprecedented situation of having two popes living within the Vatican had created confusion and fueled division within the Church. Establishing clear guidelines for future papal retirements was seen as essential to preventing similar crises in the future. Despite the passing of Benedict XVI, the divisions within the Catholic Church, they persisted. Conservative Catholics, though lacking a unifying figurehead, continued to voice their opposition to Francis's reforms, accusing him of leading the Church down a dangerous path of doctrinal ambiguity and moral relativism. The debate over the direction of the Church was, honestly, likely to continue for years to come, reflecting deeper societal divisions over issues such as sexuality, gender, and the role of religion in public life. The challenge for the Church was to find a way to engage in respectful dialogue and maintain unity amidst these disagreements. The future of the Church, many believed, depended on its ability to embrace its rich diversity while remaining faithful to its core teachings. Finding this balance would require humility, compassion, and a willingness to listen to the voices of all Catholics, regardless of their theological or political leanings. The papacies of Benedict XVI and Francis, though strikingly different in style and substance, would forever be intertwined in the annals of Church history. Benedict, the theologian pope, sought to ground the Church in its intellectual and liturgical heritage. Francis, the people's pope, challenged the Church to embrace its mission of mercy and compassion in a world riven by conflict and inequality. The tensions that marked their papacies reflected deeper divisions within the Church and society at large. Yet they also served as a reminder of the enduring power of faith and the enduring relevance of the gospel message in a rapidly changing world. The legacy of these two popes, and the challenges they faced, would continue to shape the Catholic Church for generations to come, prompting reflection, debate, and ultimately, a renewed commitment to the gospel message of love, hope, and redemption.